I think it's one of the most important things as an educator is to find the brands, and you have to align directly 100% with those people. If you don't, it feels unauthentic.
And if you align with the brand that is natural and easy for you to talk about, to share, to create work by using it, and then you naturally will attract that brand just simply by reusing it over and over again.
There was one day, I'll never forget it. One day in September, I was laying on the ground in my kitchen, like fetal position, sobbing. My mom came over and she's like, "What are we going to do?" And I was like, there was no hope. And I remember the next day going, you have to find it. You have to find that hope. And I really started to change my perspective on life. I want to make a shirt that says, it's all about perspective, baby.
Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Successful Stylist Academy podcast. I am your host, Ambrosia Carey, where we talk all things business within the industry as a hairstylist and salon owner, finance, mindset, and just everything that just keeps the wheels turning. So today I have my friend Katie Alm, who we're fellow educators, and she has a little bit more to her story that I really can't wait to unpack with you guys and just share what she's been doing within the industry and just kind of what's coming up too. So Katie, how's it going?
It is going great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad this year brought us together. I feel like the universe needed us to come together. We recently did an event in January, and people were very shocked to learn that we were not very close friends. And clearly that's just our energy. We knew each other in a past life of some sort. So
it kind of feels like it.
Yeah, it truly does feel like that. But my name's Katie Alm. I'm a hairstylist in California. I own a salon suite that I'm in right now in Diamond Bar, California. And I'm an educator and a hairstylist behind the chair. And I do everything and anything behind this chair and in the world of hairstyling. So I'm so excited to sit here and talk to you about all the crazy stuff we do as educators.
I know. Well, I'm just amazed by not just your energy, but the fact that you are able to juggle so many different things and you do it so seamlessly. You do it so well. So kudos, hats off to you for that. But I also feel like just having more like testament behind the attitude that goes behind some of the things that we do. And I kind of want to hear a little bit of backstory because I don't even know if you and I talked about this when I saw you recently.
I don't think so.
Like your journey as becoming an educator, like what inspired you to start educating to begin with in the hair industry?
Well, it started probably 12 years ago. I took a class, like a braiding class, and I remember sitting there with a friend, and she was just teaching one type of braid, and it was a very simple class. And I looked at my friend and I was like, oh, I could do this. And it kind of just sparked the joy of wanting to teach others. And I went back to my salon and we started teaching more, but really it came from the internet. Of course, social media, that's how most of us get our start, is having the knowledge and wanting to share it with the world. But I was sharing transformation videos and color videos, and I got recognized by the brand that I still currently work for, which is Joico. And I just started posting almost every single day. If you scroll all the way down, years of down on my Instagram, you'll see that there's some pretty bad videos, but they're all based around doing hair color. And Joico reached out to me. Actually, Joico Color Intensity reached out to me. Sorry, I'm fixing my headphone. Reached out to me, and I remember my mom saying there's no way that brand is reaching out to you on Instagram, because people didn't take social media seriously 12 years ago. They thought it was just a place to share pictures, which it was, but I was sharing my life, which was at the salon and the love of education. I remember Joico asked me to come out. It was a new product development day, and I went the night before. I felt like I remember being so scared because I didn't think that I could have been there. Like that imposter syndrome was kicking in already. And honestly, I'll tell you, it has never gone away after all these years. That's why I have one of these little tattoos right here. It says my own worst enemy, because I feel a lot of educators feel inferior when they're doing this. But in reality, when you go teach classes and you hear the feedback, you go, no, I'm right where I'm supposed to be. I was sitting at this table at Joico, and it was some of the most famous hairstylists at the time. Like, I think that was 8 years ago now. And I remember texting a friend at the table going, why did they ask me to be here? I'm not supposed to be here. You know, these are famous hairstylists. And she texted me back like, you're supposed to be there. But I met my friend and now mentor, Ricardo Santiago, there. And I remember asking him, how do I do this? Like, I want to do what you do. So he sat there, he emailed somebody. And then 6 months later, I was turning in a video to them. And that's pretty much the start of the journey. And funny enough, I was flying out to my new hire training in Salt Lake City as I'm reading my lease to open up my very first salon, a huge salon. So it was 2 big steps in the same year. And then my
Damn.
personal life, talk about juggling. My personal life that same year, 2018, my sister had a baby and got married. I got engaged and then had my marriage the following year, and then the world shut down. So
Oh my
it was a
gosh.
really crazy, crazy journey, all back to back to back. But it just came full circle in the last 2 years or so. I've been able to travel with Joyco and educate as the main person, because you got to start out as like the second hand, and I finally
Yes.
made it to the point where I get to be the first hand, which is so fun. So, but yeah, Joyco has been the main focus of my brand education, and how you and I met was from Olivia Garden, actually. So I also
Yes.
work with them. I'm a brand educator for them. I have been for, I believe, 7 years now, and we've been having fun sharing their beautiful work, beautiful styling products on the internet. So that's how I
How did
started, and it just started to snowball downhill, I guess, or uphill, I guess.
how did you start with Olivia Garden? Kind of same thing. You were just tagging him a ton of times and then you finally
Yeah.
got an outreach from somebody?
They do the program every year for their ambassador program, where you turn in a picture, and
Oh
I did a
yeah.
video and just got on it, and I started making funny videos with them, and I do one-offs with them. I'll do a live here and there. I'll do an event with you, and I love working with them. I think it's one of the most important things as an educator is to find the brands. If you choose to work with brands, and you have to align directly 100% with those people. If you don't, it feels unauthentic.
A
So
hundred.
with
Yeah.
Olivia Garden and with Joyco, I feel we are all on the same page, and that's super, super special to me. I feel like, and because I use it here in the salon too, it feels even more authentic because I'm actually using it every single day. So, but I love Olivia Garden.
Yeah, same, me too. Like when you first started working with Joico, like before, just when you were tagging and stuff, was there a reason behind you identifying with that brand specifically? Like, did you grow up using the product? Did you learn it initially when you first became a hairstylist? Like, what got you started with saying like Joico is it for me?
I actually started with Joyco Color Intensity, our fun color line. I have been loving fun colors right out of high school, because I had a family that didn't let you have fun colors while you were younger. So the second I got old enough, I started putting purple in my hair, and it had always been Color Intensity. And this year, Joyco is actually celebrating their 50th anniversary, and Joyco Color Intensity has been around for almost all of that time. So it's
Wow.
tried and true. And since it's been around for a long time, I just knew that it was one of the best. And when Joyco Intensity asked me to come out that day, but I knew I wanted to align with the whole brand and not just a subsection of their brand. And they said, you have to use our whole product line. And I wasn't at the time. So I ended up learning it and falling in love with it because of the science behind it. And with the new product development partnership with Joyco, I got to meet the scientists. I actually got to go to our lab in Connecticut and meet the scientists that are making the hair color, which opened up a whole new thought process of working with the brand. If I'm going to stand here as a hairstylist behind the chair, full-heartedly, I know this color line. I know this color line, and I learned it, and I know it forwards, backwards, up and down. And if I have a question, I'm cool enough with the chemist, I can call them and say, hey, can you tell
That's
me, can you
cool.
explain this? And I think it has changed my business times 100, because the clients trust me. And then obviously Joyco, I trust them. So it's been a really
Wow.
great partnership. And it's literally just because of some pink hair colors that I used to do back in the day. So
Isn't
it's
that kind of
again,
wild
full
how it
circle.
starts? Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
it's crazy.
full circle. I love it so
Well,
much. I love that. It's one of the tried and trues of all of the fun hair colors out there.
yeah, totally. I mean, I guess when we go step by step, and this is kind of something that when I talk to a bunch of my friends, they all have similar stories as you and I, where you find a brand that you really love and you don't like you have to really align with that brand. And if you align with the brand that is natural and easy for you to talk about, to share, to create work by using it, and then you naturally will attract that brand just simply by reusing it over and over again. And then the second thing, it sounds like you were just consistent. You were consistently
Yes.
posting on a regular basis. Like I think sometimes people go to these Instagram gurus and they're always trying to reinvent the wheel and like, this is trending right now. This is trending. Like forget the trending and just stick to tried and true. Find a
Yep.
brand that you love, post about it consistently, praise it if you love it, showcase things, act as if you're already an educator to like pass on
Yes.
what you know within the knowledge. You'll get to know the brand. And then, of course, being your own advocate because you reached out to somebody who was already an educator Shout out to Ricardo, one of my friends as
Yeah,
well. Like, I
this is so
love that
great.
you just was like, hey, how do I get more involved with this? And
Yeah,
like, I know that he's really good also about just like connecting people, and he's really passionate about growing the rest of the industry and tying the right people together too. So sounds like just the steps that you took, it was not only organic, but you did it because you really cared about it. I think that's a seed. That's like a key factor. I think that has to be possessed. It can't be about what am I going to get paid or how am I going to get it?
yeah,
It's more about how can I gain more experience and how can I belong to this like tribe, or I don't know, I guess we can't really use that word anymore, but like, how do I belong to something that I just like really believe in? And I
exactly.
can be a part of that too. So, I'll actually back up a second. I know that you were opening up the salon, COVID happened, you got shut down, you were starting to become an educator, and you're kind of like in the juggle sauce for a moment.
Mhm.
Were you able to juggle all that to begin with, first of all? And secondly, tell us a little bit more about the journey that happened in that salon space. Like what happened when you had to shut down and then you still had to pay rent and stuff? Like, tell us a little bit more
Absolutely.
about that.
Yeah. So when COVID happened, which was 5 years ago last week, which feels crazy, I had a 1,600 square foot salon. I had 4 employees and myself working there. I was educating. I was traveling a lot with Joyco, but nowhere near the amount of time that I leave the salon now. And unfortunately, California did close us down for 18 weeks out of that year.
So long.
And it was a long time. It was definitely a lot of pressure. The landlord did not offer any financial help. I did get state financial help, but that came a lot later down the line. And unfortunately, all of the girls that did work in my salon decided to take their business elsewhere. So I ended up alone for about almost a full year in that big salon space, knowing that I was going to close it down. I most definitely could have had new people come in once we got opened up again and redid it, but I felt like I I did what I wanted to do. I opened the salon back in cosmetology school at 18 years old. I told my teacher, Mr. Graciano, I'm going to open a salon one day. And then I was able to achieve that goal at 26, which is not super
Wow.
easy. It's a hard thing to do. And I had a lot of support from my family, my husband in particular. And then when I decided to close the salon down because I just could not financially keep it up anymore, and the thought of having to handle a new stylist felt very daunting. And I just thought, I think I'm just going to go off on my own. And I couldn't break the lease. I didn't want to hurt my credit. I didn't want to go bankrupt. So we stayed in there every day. And I will tell you, it was the hardest 10 months that I think I've ever had. The last 10 months of that time, in comparison to the whole entire 2 years that we were down, right? I lost 4 friends. I lost about
Wow.
$20,000, and I lost a patch of hair on the back of my head, like 2 inches by 3 inches. I was unbelievably stressed out.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
realized I had lost so much during that time. I moved over here. I'm in a Phoenix salon suite, and about 6 weeks later, I could not find my bald spot anymore. My hair started to grow back. It was unbelievable, the difference of when you change your surroundings and you change your life, and maybe the universe rids some things that aren't necessary for you anymore, how better your life is. So when people, it was really cute. A lot of times people would tell me like, I'm so sorry that that happened to you. And I felt like I was comforting them in the moment. Like, it's okay. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. But I tell them that I lost a lot, but I've gained 10 times over. What I've gained is way more confidence in myself behind the chair because I was alone. There was no ideas to bounce off of anybody else. I became really confident in my marriage because that was the person that was my chosen family, and he stuck by me no matter what. Nothing like the world shutting down, you opening up a salon and getting married all in the same year. It
Yeah.
was a lot of pressure for our relationship, and he continued working. He's in construction, so he kept working, and I was literally just sitting at home alone. I would say, very sad, but I started to realize when you're at that lowest point in your life, like there's really nowhere else to go but up.
Yeah.
There was one day, I'll never forget it. One day in September, I was laying on the ground in my kitchen, like fetal position, sobbing. My mom
Mm,
came over and she's like, "What are we going to do?" And I was like, there was no hope. And I remember the next day going, you have to find it. You have to find that hope. And I really started to change my perspective on life. I want to make a shirt that says it's all about perspective, baby, because that's what I say all the time. Like, did I lose all those friends and all that money in this big salon, or did I gain the truest friends? Did I gain my beautiful
mm,
salon suite that my clients love times 10 over being in a big salon suite? They
wow.
love being here. They love being in this quiet, like they can be a little sassy and funny and loud, and no one's going to, be judging them. And me personally, when it became to education, at that time, TikTok really blew up, right? So
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to hop on this trend of getting on this app that people thought was for children. In reality, it wasn't for children. But I had this huge salon space. I was paying $2,500 a month and it wasn't able to work. So I just started going in there and filming myself and getting really comfortable in front of the camera. And we went from a lot of in-person education to boom, 100% online. And
Right.
we
Yeah.
realized as a Joico company that some of us needed some help when it came to doing social media, being online, how to work all these Zoom calls and stuff. And I volunteered. I said, hey, Joico, let me teach them how to use TikTok. Let me teach them how to use Instagram. And we taught 3 or 4 classes on it. We were making PowerPoints. We were doing Zoom calls and trying to get people confident in front and behind the camera to do this sort of thing. And then the world opened back up and I was like, well, I'm not done doing social media and I'm definitely not done educating. And I think because I had that big salon, it took up a third of my time, if not 2/3 of my time. I didn't have time to focus on social media or even my education career. Well, I closed that salon down and my career 100% skyrocketed. I travel
Wow.
the country now. I get to do all the most fun things. Sometimes I look at my life and I go, oh, I have to wake up early. I was complaining, oh, I have to wake up early. My husband's like, you're going on an airplane to teach a class with a bunch of hairstyles. I'm like, yeah, I'll shut up. Yeah, okay. My life
Yeah.
is literally amazing. And I think that you just change the way you view your life, right? I don't have to go to the grocery store. I get to go to the grocery store. I don't have to go to work. I get to go to work. And I started changing the way I think about myself. Also, started getting a lot of tattoos. So in the beginning of the pandemic, I was no visible tattoos at all. And people
Really?
started to think that I was freaking out. Yeah, they're like, are you good? I said, I'm better than ever because I felt confident in myself. And I started getting tattoos. And now I probably wear skimpier clothes than I ever have before. So I love showing off my body. I'm very confident in myself now. And it's because of what happened to me during the pandemic. It fundamentally changed my view on the world, on money, on relationships, on client relationships. And my business is honestly, it's thriving because of it. And I was telling my client yesterday, I was joking that I started posting hair again on Instagram
Uh-huh.
because usually I kind of, last year I kind of trailed off a little bit. I was focusing on helping other hair educators boost their pages. So my page kind of fell through the cracks a little bit. I started posting the last maybe 6 weeks of hair. Why did I get like 10 new clients? It's just like
Oh my
just being
gosh.
consistent, right? And
Yes.
just posting and not to care about the numbers, not to care about anything, but just put yourself out there. And that's why I get to
Yeah.
do all this fun stuff is because I just said, let's go. And then when I did get to go, I showed up and I showed out is what I like to say. I
Yes,
got there
girl.
on time. I look cute while I'm doing it. I'm fun. I brought all the extra stuff. And I'm in a very facetious way, jokey way that we say we're full of joy. We're joyful, right? And that's really
Yes.
what it is. I'm very joyful. I love to be there and I'm excited to be there. And that's why people keep having me go, which is fun.
Oh, I love that.
But
That's
yeah.
what I love about you though, Katie. Like you do radiate, like you're just like a pocket of sunshine. Like I think there's so much that goes into that attitude of gratitude, but it's what's interesting is that the gratitude came to you when you were faced with challenges or hard times and that truly is what kind of builds character, but it's
Yeah.
also what gives us like real perspective and what actually
True.
matters. And sometimes I think we can get attached to titles or attached to something that we think is supposed to be a certain way when
Yeah.
in reality it could become the very shackles of us too. So that's
Absolutely. That's
freaking
a beautiful
amazing.
way to say that. Yeah.
Oh, well,
That's
thank
literally
you.
the truest. Yeah, I love that. That's so
Well, I
true.
mean, I
It did feel like
identify with it.
shackles.
I do
Yeah.
identify with it because sometimes like I associate my titles with my self-worth. You know, like
Mhm.
if
Yeah.
I don't have this, if I'm not growing in this way, and there's so many ways of growth. And
Yeah.
sometimes if you're growing in one way, then you're suppressing growth in other ways. So it seems as though
100%.
like because things happen the way that it did, it happened for you so that you could actually grow internally
Yeah.
and you could take that internal growth and you were able to, like you were saying, 10 times other things, which is
Yeah.
freaking incredible. Okay, so I hear like how being an educator has really reignited not just your passion but your ability to grow.
Yeah.
What sort of challenges have you kind of run into as an educator? Because there's always the upside, but then there's always like the hard side of it too. Like I know that you work quite a bit too. So
Yeah.
like share with us a little bit what your personal challenges or biggest challenges have been as you faced as an educator.
Probably the biggest challenges is being out of the salon and being away from home. I have a very rich personal life as well. I'm very close with my friends and family. We do a lot of activities on the weekends. So being gone, especially last year, I traveled more last year I think, than I had in the 3 years, 4 years leading up to that. I was gone for 10 days at a time. It was hard on our marriage. It was also hard on my clients, right? Because I have clients that like to get their hair done every 3 weeks, and they've been so wonderful working with my schedule. Like yesterday, I had to move a client, and I felt so bad because she's on vacation. And I texted, I know she's on vacation. I saw on Instagram, and I'm like, can we move your appointment? Because Joyco asked me to do an event with them, and they are very, very, very willing and open. And I try to be 10 times accommodating in the sense if I have to move your appointment, I try to get you in before that appointment or try to work with your schedule. And I think as a client, especially new clients come in, they understand I am an educator. I make it very clear online. I travel a lot. And when my clients refer me to people, I come with a warning. I always like to ask the clients when they sit in the chair, what's my warning that the referral gave you? And it's usually that I am busy and I'm out of the salon a lot. Or my favorite one is that she wears really long nails, but she can do hair still. And I'm like, yeah, 100%. I love that. That's my warning, is that she wears long nails. But yeah, that's the biggest challenge, is just being away from the main base. This is how I make the most of my money. This is where my love and my passion is. But when I do get to leave and I get to meet like-minded hairstylists, especially teaching the cosmetology schools is like one of my biggest passions, is feeding the next gen of hairstylists and showing them that it's not as scary as some of the older hairstylists told us it was. And they have so much opportunity, which is really exciting. Yeah, if I can go meet more hairstylists across the country, it feeds my soul almost as much as it feeds here, being here with my clients and being creative behind the chair. So that's the biggest balance, is just work-life balance. Every single person in this world says work-life balance. And it's the truth. Even if you love your job, you still got to find that work-life balance,
Yeah. And it varies for each person. Like, it's definitely one of those like self journeys. Like my work-life balance, it might be different than someone else's. And you just have to find
Absolutely.
what works for you. So it's kind of interesting too, because I think you are really passionate about just connecting with people in general. It sounds like that's why you have the ability to connect with clients. That's how you and I had the ability to connect when we had
Yeah.
never like actually met face to face together. That's how you're able to connect with other hairstylists around the world and stuff.
Yeah.
I actually have that brought up a question for me. I'm just curious, like your
Mhm.
personal perspective or like your experience when you're working with somebody who's also an educator. So like just putting somebody in the same shoes as you, have you noticed a difference between an educator who is only education and doesn't do hair behind the chair anymore versus somebody who does still take care of clients behind the chair and also educates? Do you see a difference between styles, methods, or just like, I don't know, the ability to connect or anything like that? Like, what's been your take on that?
Absolutely, 100%, Lily, 100%.
Really?
Even as someone who, I like to say that I get to assist the elite hairstylists, right? Because they are a lot more fancy. They travel a lot, and some of them don't work behind the chair anymore. They've been able to boost their education career where they don't have to have a clientele. And I will tell you that they are a little different than the ones that work clientele. I think when you stay with a clientele, you stay in the relevancy of trends and changing. And a lot of times, especially right now when this world is like the in salon scenarios, and then you're watching a main stage and someone is talking about in salon scenarios, but you know wholeheartedly that they don't work in the salon anymore, you kind of tune it out a little bit because you go, well, you don't really know what the in salon scenarios is because
Yeah.
you're doing it on a beautiful model with virgin hair and you get perfect results every time. Let me see that person that had box eye in their hair on that main stage, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So,
I
and I
see
think,
that.
yeah, and I think when I work with the hairstylist, it's almost just as important as like if I get along with them, which I feel like I can get along with 99.9% of people. But if I have to be like very much so aligned with them, or I feel like we're just gonna keep missing each other, right? So I work with a girl named Laura Gibson a lot. She's one of Joyco's educators, and the same kind of thing after you and me. We just kind of hit it off, and we got to travel a lot last year. We stayed in each other's rooms all the time. We were together pretty much from like the second we got to the airport to the second we left. So like let's say 48 hours together nonstop, and we are just toe to toe. We are the same. And if we weren't that way, I think personality wise, we wouldn't mesh as easily. And even though she doesn't work 100% behind the chair, she still has a full clientele in another state. She has clientele in 2 different states and she lives in a third state. So watching her work, you go, oh, you can do pretty much anything. And that's the hard, like for me, I'm like, I can do everything and anything because I have no children right now, which is very helpful, obviously, but I can do all these things because I have the energy and I'm young and I'm hungry enough to do it. So finding the right person to align with if you're going to assist somebody is the top number one, 100%. And I couldn't really say there's too many people that I work with that I'm not happy with. I've worked with a lot of very elite hairstylists, and they are all pretty wonderful. So I'm very, very lucky. Joyco definitely chooses really wonderful people. And Olivia Garden too. Even I was talking to my husband before I met you, and he was like, "Do you know her?" And I was like, "No," but I looked on her Instagram, and I've followed you for many, many years before I met you. I was like, she dresses super cute, very similar to me. She posts a lot of her face and stuff. Like, I think we're gonna get along really, really well. And guess what?
Here
got
we
along really,
are.
really well. Yeah. So I think you can just kind of read that personality, and being a hairstylist for all these years, you get really good at just intuition, people's attitudes, and there's people you meet and you go, no, I don't need
Not
to be
for
in the same
me.
room as that person. Not for me. But and then you meet someone and you're like, yes, you and I, best friends forever. I think I said that before we left. I went on Instagram and I was like, we're best friends now. She doesn't know it, but we're best friends. So because we just clicked, and I think that's the attitude, is just being helpful and on time. That's my biggest one. I'm always on time. I got here an hour ago.
That's a good one.
I got to my salon an hour ago, literally. Yeah, 100%. I had to clean up some hair from yesterday, but also I had to set everything up, and it helps. I have a little bit of anxiety, so it helps with getting up and getting ready. And then I just sit here. I was literally sitting in this chair waiting for the call to be on my phone. So because that's the anxiety based. And that's why I think I do show up and show out, just because I feel somebody behind me is like watching me, and I want it's me. I'm watching myself to talk about and making sure that I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to be doing. So
that's smart that you do that. Like, you kind of know in the back of your mind, or behind you, like yourself, you're like, no, I'm going to do this for myself. Like, I want to be here early because I want to make sure that I feel super prepared, over prepared. I'd much rather, like, I'm not going to be the reason why I'm not feeling good about something. Like, that's 100%. So smart. I love that you say that. Totally agree with you, by the way. Like, I've worked with, like, I've been in the same room as educators who both work behind the chair, and ones that haven't worked behind the chair for a very long time. And I do see how you technically based and personality wise, that doesn't make a difference. But the ones who do work behind the chair still and still service clients and are like, they're in the trenches, they are very different and relatable in a very different way, I think, or relatable. And relatable to the average person or the person that they are teaching. And I think that's probably the reason why I continue to work behind the chair, because it allows me to, like, kind of keep my pulse close. Like, I want to feel like I have a pulse on the industry, and I want to be able to relate to what people are going through as well. Because even though things change, there's still something that is associated with it. It's kind of like, if you don't use it, you lose it. Like, my mom was telling me, like, she cannot parallel park anymore. She's like, I literally can't parallel park. She's like, I just can't do it. I won't attempt. I won't try. And it's just because you don't use it, you lose it. I'm kind of curious, like, not to throw, like, obviously with keeping names out and stuff like that. Do you have an experience that stands out to you where, like, you didn't maybe get along with another educator, and like, within that story, how did you deal with it? Because I know for me, I have a story that stands out, and I'll share it too. But I want to hear yours. Like, if anything stands out to you, if you can't think of anything, I can obviously share my story.
I have a story from years ago. Before I even became an educator, I was working at a salon that would do a lot of. It's so funny when you think back how long you've been in the industry. You can contest to this. Remember the hairstyling books, right? Before Pinterest, like, the salon would get together. They would get a professional photographer out. They would all do kick-ass hair, and they would photograph it and put it in a hardcover and then put it on the table. And I worked at a salon like that. We did a photo shoot, like a runway thing one time. And one of that educators that worked at that salon, he thought he was the bee's knees, and I went to assist for him on set or on, location with like 3 or 4 other girls. He asked me to get water for him, and I brought him back a water bottle, and he did not specify he wanted it in a cup or glass or ice or anything like that. And he threw the water bottle at me.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow,
and I remember thinking,
so unacceptable.
So unacceptable. So unacceptable. I will tell you, I came across his Instagram maybe 2 months ago. He's not doing much. He's not doing much. And that kind of contests, if you have a bad attitude and you think that your shit don't stink, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. And you'll get humbled. The industry, you inevitably will humble you. And I think at that time, maybe he didn't work the salon he used to work, and then he came back. And when he started working again with me, he, like, tried to be cool with me. And I remember, like, telling him, like, we are not cool. Like what you did to me was not okay. And he remembers like, oh, I didn't remember I did that. That's even a
Wow.
bigger reason that you didn't remember you did that. Red flag. Don't want to be your
Yeah.
friend. No, thank you. And I'll never forget too. I was at an event with Joyco, and there was an educator that is no longer a Joyco educator with us, and she told us, "You have it so good. You have it so good." And I was like, "What are you talking about? These new hires, you guys get treated so much better than we got treated." I was like, "Can you elaborate what you mean?" She's like, "People used to be so rude to us, like the upper educators used to be so rude to us, like pretty much saying like I deserve to be treated rudely by the upper people because she got treated rudely by the upper people."
Yeah.
And I stopped her and I said, "Don't you want the next generation to have a little bit easier than you did? Like,
Isn't
don't
that
you
the
want to be the
point?
person that changes that rudeness?" And that person doesn't work for us anymore either. But I definitely I see that, and I don't want the next generation when I meet these next gen hairstylists to think like we are mean girls because we
Yeah.
are known to be the mean girls in the service industry, and I don't want that to be our reputation anymore. We are not mean girls. We are helpful. We're engaging. We're community based, and when you finally get that group of educators, especially in a brand, and we all are turned into like a big family, it actually that speaks volumes across the country, across all of our social media platforms. And Joico has really had a really great base of educators now. And some of those educators became my very best friends. We're called the Misfits, and we travel the country together. There's four of us. All three of us, or all four of us at one time, was educators. One is she's gone on to be a works for a cosmetology school now, so she's a different kind of educator now.
Oh, that's
But
cool.
right, it's really cool actually, and she just got hired at a new school, which is actually a Joico-based school, which is really really cool too. But we traveled the country together, and we met from the like-mindedness of hair education. But we live in four different states. We are four different ages. We look four different ways, and that's why we call ourselves the Misfits, because when you look at us as a whole, you go, they're not friends, but we are the very best of friends. I was actually on the phone with them right before I got on the phone with you.
I
Uh,
love that.
so finding your community is the biggest accomplishment. And I love to tell the next gen hairstylist that even if you meet someone in hair school, you might not be best friends with them for the rest of your career. There's a
Yeah.
handful of girls, like shout out my cosmetology friends, because we still talk to each other. We like each other's posts. One of them,
Aw.
like a week ago, shared a Facebook, Facebook memory that's I wrote on there like I love you, and then she wrote it, and I reshared it, and I wrote on there like still do, because we still do, right? You still have love for people, even if you don't see them all the time. So finding the community, even if it's not in your direct home base, like here in
Yeah.
California, I still have that community outside in the world, and it makes me feel whole again, because I don't work in a salon where I have those best friendships that where you can bounce ideas off of. Now, granted, I can go knock on my neighbor's door and she will definitely help me out. Or the other day she came in here, she gave me a donut, which is so cute. But we don't have that like salon camaraderie that you would in a normal big salon setting. So
Yeah.
because I'm in a salon suite, I love to have that outside friend group that really does speak volumes to my success behind the chair. So
You know
yeah.
what's crazy? You said something that made me think about this. I have known several people that have opened up salons with their best friend, quote unquote, like their best friend in the whole wide world, that they're like, oh, we're gonna do hair together forever. We're gonna hang out, and then they go into business together, and then
Mhm.
it slowly starts to unravel. I don't know if you've like seen similar situations, but that's been my experience whenever I've talked to people,
Totally.
that it's a total testament that even if you start doing something together, it might not be that you keep growing together. And
Mhm.
that will happen. You might outgrow people, but if you continue to have the correct attitude for yourself of growth, wanting to give back to the next gen, which is so important, and surround yourself by people that also want to do it, then it becomes a ripple effect. Also, love the fact that your friend that was educator on the road is now teaching inside of cosmetology schools. That's so important, because my experience, which I think a lot of people experiences, as soon as I graduated, I had like the school reaching out to me like, "Hey, I know you just graduated. Would you like to become our next instructor or whatever?" It's just like, "What? I'm not ready to teach. Like, I just learned this
Exactly.
stuff, you know?" So that's cool to hear that somebody who has so much experience and loves to educate is in the place that they should be. Like, we need more
Absolutely.
of that. All right, friends, that was part 1 of 2. Don't forget to subscribe for next week's episode. Dream big, set goals, and take action. We'll see you next week.